Imagine that you need to deploy some wireless networking and you have no idea what type of on-site location you're going to be walking into. Which access point would you bring? Is it indoors or outdoors? Where are you going to mount it? How much space do you have? Do you need wireless coverage all around or just in a specific direction? What access point are you going to bring? Introducing the UK Ultra. This is the first device to hit the market in the new Ultra lineup of products from Ubiquiti, which are designed to be ultra compact, versatile, and cost effective. All right, let's talk about it. Did you know that only about 25% of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribers? Subscribe to Crosstalk Solutions to be one of the first to know about new products such as the UK Ultra or the other new products that may or may not be coming out this week. You're not going to want to miss that one, so subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified the moment a new video shows up here on YouTube. The UK Ultra has an MSRP of $109, and it's absolutely tiny, measuring just a bit bigger than a deck of cards. UK Ultra is also known as the Swiss Army Knife Ultra because it is incredibly versatile. It comes with everything you need to mount on a wall or ceiling, and it can even be pole mounted right out of the box. It has a built-in wireless antenna, but it also has two RP-SMA connectors hidden in this top compartment for adding external antennas. We're going to touch on that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the specs of the UK Ultra. On the bottom here, we've got a 1 gigabit Ethernet port with cable entry ports through either the bottom or the back of the access point. There's also a security screw that can lock the cover once the Ethernet cable has been installed. It's powered up by PoE and uses just 8 watts of power max, which means this access point has the lowest maximum power rating out of Ubiquiti's entire access point lineup. The UK Ultra is Wi-Fi 5 with a 20 dBm antenna and 2x2 MIMO in both the 2.4 and 5 GHz spectrums. It's rated for up to 200 devices with up to 866 megabits of throughput in the 5 GHz range. Now, I know my audience, and I can already hear furious typing in the comments asking, why isn't this Wi-Fi 6? How come Ubiquiti is still coming out with Wi-Fi 5 access points when Wi-Fi 6 has been around for so long and when Wi-Fi 7 is just around the corner? Well, I actually had that exact same question, and so I asked Ubiquiti about this, and they told me that they created the Ultra line of products to meet a market need for versatile, compact, and most importantly, cost-effective equipment. It's for those folks who have specific low-cost wireless needs, or for situations where you don't need all of the power that you get with a Wi-Fi 6 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point with all of the latest and greatest features. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the use cases for the UK Ultra. First and foremost, I can see having 1 or 2 of these as spares in my tech bag at all times for when I go to a client site. Did they have an access point failure? Do they need additional coverage in a particular area? This is the perfect tiny device to keep spares of for those situations. Exactly the same as the cheap 5 and 8 port gigabit switches that I keep in my bag. You never know when you're going to need one for a customer. I can also see these being incredibly useful for first responders. Now, I do volunteer work with the ITDRC. These are folks that go out into disaster zones and set up wireless when communications have been destroyed by fires or flooding or a hurricane, right? Having a bunch of these handy and available to be pole, wall, or ceiling mounted very easily can be hugely beneficial. I also did a video a while back called Network in a Box, where I tried to make the smallest and most compact network possible that I could bring out to an event and set up some temporary Wi-Fi. Well, this is the device that I would choose for that network in a box due to the versatile mounting options and the low power draw. And speaking of low power draw, how about for off-grid applications? Need some wireless coverage in a remote location? Maybe you're powering it with solar. Well, this thing not only draws just 8 watts of power max, but it's also IPX6 weatherproof, meaning that it can withstand, quote, powerful jets from any direction. I mean, you can literally pop one of these up in terrible storm conditions and it'll be just fine. I also always have to keep in mind that I'm here in the US, right, where we have pretty abundant availability of all of this fancy new hardware. And I have a tech channel where I'm always testing out the latest and greatest stuff. But What about international customers who always seem to get forgotten in the supply chain? Or anyone with wireless projects where low cost and form factor are going to be more important than having the latest technology or the fastest speeds? I mean, these are going to come in real handy in those situations. So those are just a few of the use cases that I can see for the UK Ultra off the top of my head. And I'm sure that you folks have even more use cases that I'd love to hear about down in the comments. And sure, if you are installing an access point at home where you're going to be streaming 4K Netflix movies and providing connectivity to dozens of IoT devices, maybe this is not the best choice for you, right? I think about it this way. Yes, you can go spend a lot of money on a Corvette that goes super fast, but most of the time you're driving the same speeds as a Nissan Sentra anyways. There are access points that can provide you multi-gigabits worth of bandwidth. But are you actually using that bandwidth, or would a Wi-Fi 5 access point be sufficient? If you're honestly telling me, Chris, I absolutely need the fastest access points with the most bandwidth available for my home use case, then luckily Ubiquiti does have a full lineup of more powerful access points. Now for home use, I would go for the U6 Plus or even maybe the U6 Pro access points. Those are more powerful and they have higher bandwidth due to being Wi-Fi 6. But for those of you who just need to be able to surf the web from your backyard shed or need simple unobtrusive connectivity out by your pool, or for any of the use cases that I already talked about, this UK Ultra is definitely worth a look. All right, so let's do a bit of testing here, okay? I have the UK Ultra plugged into a 24-port Pro Max switch, and also plugged into that switch is a Zima board with a 10 gigabit network card running Open Speed Test. My test device here is a Google Pixel 8, which has up to Wi-Fi 7 capabilities. In my speed testing of this device, I was getting between 450 to 550 megabits download and upload, which again, isn't as fast as you're going to get with Wi-Fi 6, but it's certainly plenty powerful for the majority of use cases that you may have for this Swiss Army knife access point. I also tried stealing the antennas off one of these older generation mesh access points to connect to the RP SMA connectors on top of the UK Ultra, which worked, but it didn't really provide any improvements to my speed testing. I was still getting about 450 to 550 megabits. Keep in mind though that I'm just testing in my office, right? I'm not testing for distance, I'm only testing for bandwidth. These mesh access points also have a directional antenna option, which I'm assuming would work with this UK Ultra to broadcast a signal out towards a specific direction as well. Versatility is key here, and that's why they call this thing the Swiss Army knife. You get versatility not only in the mounting options, but in the antenna options. You can use the built-in antenna and keep everything compact, or you can use a bigger omnidirectional or directional antenna for your specific use case. You can use it indoors or outdoors, and it's compact enough to just slip right into your back pocket. So for $109, I think it's well worth picking one of these up to keep in your tech bag if you regularly visit client sites to fix their network issues. I'm also super curious about what other products are going to be announced in the Ultra lineup of devices, and I may even have some here already. Subscribe so that you don't miss out. Links to everything down in the description below, and if you'd like to keep this party going, I have hand-selected a couple of videos on the right here for you to watch next. The top video is my complete setup guide for the GL iNet travel routers, another really versatile piece of hardware. And the bottom video is my review of the Pro Max switches that I used in this network test.